Avengers! Assemble.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Excelsior, the world's #1 Marvel's Avengers podcast / Guardians of the Galaxy and Midnight Suns and Avengers, the other spin-offs, Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. I'm Christian Buckley, your director, joined by the Apex legend Jack Martin. How are you?
Excelsior, Christian. I'm doing well. It is a gray day here in our neck of the woods. You know, I like when it's gray and rainy. Yes. There's a charm to it. There's a vibe, might I say, to it. Gray and just still is boring. And it's just, the whole day. Just looking out my window, like, man, the world is just boring right now.
Yeah,
but
and I love it, It's the perfect day for like a sit down Resident Evil, Batman Arkham Asylum, Bloodborne in this house, it's a good day to settle in with a game like that.
I really need to sink my teeth into Deathloop, which I started playing recently, but it was one of those experiences where, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but you get a new game and you have like very quick play sessions with it because you're like busy or whatever. So I've had like 3 different play sessions that are all like 30 minutes because I'm like getting off of work and then it's like, I need to eat. And it's like, well, now I want to watch something when I'm eating. And then after that point, it's like, well, I can't really play that much of this game right now. So I really need to just, go after this environment that we're in, this gray day, and just play that game for so long.
Yeah, I feel that. I've been sitting on Psychonauts 2 for a while because I haven't had the right amount of time. I need a good chunk. And so much of my time, I wish I would be able to segue and say that it's been taken up by this game. But no, it's not. It's Destiny.
Yep.
So why don't we get to what's going on with Marvel's Avengers this week? It's a light week. Fury's report. Let's recap it. The base game is on sale at the moment. It is half off on PlayStation, Xbox, and Stadia. No word on Steam, but that's what the blog said. Until basically the end of the month. They all had different end dates. I think it was the 27th, 28th, 29th. But if you're looking to get into this game, which maybe you should, a lot of people seem to be doing that, now might be a good time. And if you want some of those endgame skins, not all of them, but some of them, you could buy the endgame edition of the game for 35% off. So, is it worth a check?
Endgame edition, probably not. But it's funny that this is a news story because I feel like Avengers has been hovering around $20 to $30 for, I don't know, the past 8 months.
Yeah.
So, in official / unofficial like capacities, like for example, like GameStop might be selling it for X amount and Target might be selling it for Y amount, but this is like the publisher is saying, hey, the game is just, this is 50% off on these platforms. So that's good at least. And I feel like this is more of a digital marketplace situation where you can buy this game digitally for half off, which is good.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we can just say this now since we're talking about sales. There's a story floating around there because NPDs release, every month. That's the video game sales numbers for North America. Avengers, over the last 12 months, is the 7th best-selling game, I believe. And in the month of August, it was like top 5?
Yeah, I think something around there.
Yeah.
Doing very well, though.
Yeah, so good to see. We discussed it a little bit with the roadmap conversation, like how good is we're pleased with these numbers. Apparently they're good because if it's charting, like, yeah, summer was kind of light for new game releases, but War for Wakanda needed to bring in players on the base level buying the game because that's the main revenue stream besides skins. And if it shot up all those places, I'm sure it did do well, so this is why we're getting more content.
It's always been the interesting conversation around sales with this game because we mentioned this back when it first released, and there were some like sales like announcements with this, and it seemed to be doing very well. And then Square came out and said it didn't meet expectations. And we've said this, and Paul Tassi said this in a write-up recently, that it seems like Square Enix just has like completely unreasonable expectations in terms of sales for its video games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just through the roof expectations that it couldn't meet, even in like a normal year or whatever.
Yep.
So I think this game has always sold well. It was just the publisher's image of the sales for this game just were a little unrealistic.
Yeah. So what can you say? At the very least, it means we're getting more content. So if your friends are looking at the game, or if you stumbled upon this podcast, if you're a Marvel fan, it's a worthy purchase. I think it's probably, if it's 50% off, it's probably like $30. You can have a good time with the character expansions in the main game at this point. Strictly being a Marvel fan, like, it's worth it, you know. And then that's your ticket for the future too.
Yeah, it's one of those things where at $60, there's a very select group of people that I would recommend this to, but at $30, that widens exponentially, and I could recommend this game to so many people at $30.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with you. I feel like that's a good investment if you want to give this a go.
Sure. And speaking of investments, the way that this game is going to be continued to be funded is through skins in the marketplace. And Jack, this week, oh baby, they might finally actually get me to spend money on this game because I'm down on credits and we got a good skin. What is it?
You're down bad, Christian, because
I am.
The Black Panther's Civil War outfit is in the marketplace. Now, how surprising is this? Because I was expecting another Black Panther costume to come like weeks from now, not like pretty much immediately after his Infinity War skin. So that's pretty incredible. You must be loving life right now.
I'm shocked. I truly am. Because, like, I think we were even talking about this as a possibility last week, right? And it was like, oh, yeah, I'll have the money eventually because I'll get back in at some point before they release this. No, I haven't. I haven't played the game once since we talked last week. But, yeah, it's a great-looking skin. It's one of my favorite on-screen superhero costumes, like, ever. I love how this thing looks. It's clean, it's bold, it's sharp, it's iconic. Huge fan of this one, and I want it in my game, and I got one option, and that's breaking out the credit card.
Yeah, it's a really great looking skin. Yeah, and you're right. It is just, this is the first appearance we had of Black Panther on the big screen, and I feel like for that it's very nostalgic, and it's also just a really good looking skin in general. A lot of great accents with like silver, sparse throughout and things like that. So it's a really good looking skin. So if you are a Black Panther main, you might want to consider this one.
Yeah. And honestly, just the helmet too. The helmet is what ties it all together for me over the Infinity War stuff, because I think the other skins look good. It's just like this one's like, it looks like a helmet or like a mask, you know. The other one I think leans much more into like, it makes sense that this culture that is inspired by like their lineage would have like a more animalistic looking mask for their protector rather than like the kind of militaristic one we had in Civil War. But still, that one gives me good vibes. It's cool.
Can you go with me on this analogy here?
Sure.
Is this the Batman Begins suit to the Infinity War / Black Panther Dark Knight suit?
I think so. I think it is. Yeah. Do you like the Batman Begins suit more?
Oh, I love it. I love the Batman Begins suit because it is the classic, oh, the actor can't move his neck because we designed this that way. I really like, and the cape is so huge on that, like it envelops him. So I really do like that. I do appreciate the Dark Knight outfit a lot. It's very practical. You get like some kind of angular design with the neck stuff, so that it looks a little funky, but I like them both. But I might lean towards Batman Begins just because of that big old cape, man. It's cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it looks great. It's fantastic, and thank God, Zack Snyder figured out how to make a good looking cowl move for an actor. So
Yeah.
onwards and upwards.
Just not 90% of the other parts of his outfit. I don't like the big gray.
Ooh, really?
It's too light. I wish it was darker.
What? We'll move on from Batman in just 1 second. But if it was the same color gray, but then the rest of the black was blue, would you be okay with it?
Man, I don't know. You and I both love the 1970s gray and blue, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know how that looks.
What about a navy, like a navy blue?
I'd have to see it.
Okay, fair enough. In the marketplace, we also have the Cosmic Glow skin set. If you want to look like you ate a bar of radiation, your Avenger can do that. Mm-hmm. And one you sent me, Jack, that I think is very fun. We never talk about takedowns or emotes really, but there is a Black Panther powerbomb that you sent to me and just said Batista bomb. So, hell yeah.
Yeah, Dave Batista was my favorite wrestler growing up. I used to watch the WWE for like a good 2 years to make me like impressionable enough to just keep coming back. Loved Batista. Very glad that he's found success as an actor now, because it's very hit or miss for wrestlers. And the Batista bomb was the greatest. What do they call them? Finishing moves?
I think so, yeah.
Whenever he charged up and did his ultimate, that was just the coolest.
His final smash.
Yeah, flipping people up, like crotch in the face, which, takes a lot to do that. And then slammed them down on their back. Good stuff. Always appreciated that.
Absolutely. Now, if only we could get Captain America to get the John Cena patented, God, what was it called?
The 5-knuckle shuffle?
They actually changed it because WWE got more like PG, and they're like, oh, that's a masturbation joke. We don't want that. It's called the
Was it?
Yeah, the 5-knuckle shuffle. I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
That's fine.
I think it's called the AA now. It's like the attitude adjuster or something like that. It's very strange.
That's awful.
Anyway, yeah, like I said, folks, it's a light week for this game. It's a light week for Marvel's Avengers.
The fact that we're talking about WWE like that should tune you in to what's going on with this game.
In terms of updates, they, believe it or not, Jack, they're still working. They're still working on all the system reworks, and they're making good progress. So we can look forward to the fixes for gear, which genuinely are going to be very good, and everything else system-wise throughout this year, because it's still in their line of sight. And the other update is, and I quote, although a major focus for our current roadmap was system reworks, we want to reiterate that we have more content coming in 2022, including heroes and villains. So, there you go.
When you read this, did you immediately look at the capital H, capital V, heroes and villains, and think of the classic mode in Star Wars Battlefront 2, either game, heroes and villains?
I did not, but I should have.
That's immediately what I thought of. And I was like, oh, we can play as... there's a new mode coming? And then I was like, no, that's not what we're doing here. But that's cool. We kind of suspected this in a way. Maybe we're thinking it's going to be a lighter year. That is, we're kind of just going off of our own ideas of that. But it's nice to know that they're reiterating and saying, hey, 2022 is going to have content, including playable heroes and new villains and presumably villain sectors. So good that they're doubling down on that and letting us know.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting that they say, specifically talking 2022, they say heroes. So, who's that gonna be? Is it gonna be... Jack, I would be blown away, shocked, if Doctor Strange is not the hero that comes after Spider-Man, because based off their maybe 3 to 4 month cycle of releasing heroes, 3 to 4 months after November, December, it's going to be March. That's when the movie comes out. I think that would probably be huge for them to have that drop at the same time. And I think they probably want to do that now, you know?
That's a really good call. I feel like Doctor Strange is not similar enough to anyone on the team, really, that he wouldn't really be an echo of anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So he's fairly different. And you're right, it would line up quite well with the movie. I know there's been a bunch of leaks for characters. I know Bucky is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
If we get Bucky in February and we can do my Cap and Bucky fanfic, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love that. I feel like we get 2 next year, maybe 3. Like we get Carol in September for like the year 2 expansion.
Mm-hmm.
We get 1 before that, and we get 1 after that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good expectation, you know? And villains will most likely be 1 for each of them. I do think it would be nice if for some of these more random event drops, like the Monica Villain Sector or the Claw Raid, whatever we have next year, I do hope they introduce new villains with those, you know? Like if there is a random thing not tied to a hero, don't make it a random thing starring a villain we've seen before, you know? Like, would it be that hard to, instead of using Crossbones for a new villain sector next year, be like, oh, here's Mads Mikkelsen's character from Doctor Strange randomly or something. I don't know, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good.
So, that basically does it for Marvel's Avengers this week. So, in terms of Stark Realities, Jack, we are approaching 1 month from the release of Marvel's, Square Enix's, Eidos Montreal's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Isn't that weird? That's crazy.
I know. This past week, they announced that they went gold. This baby's not getting delayed. Where's your hype level at right now?
It's very subdued. It's very subdued. Even though I am completely sold on this game, and I will pre-order it probably like a week before launch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've seen all that I need to see about this game, and that was back in July. And every time we see a new trailer or anything that pops up at a showcase, I'm like, you didn't need to show that. Like, I'm in, and the more times you show it, like, the less I'm really caring, because I have seen enough. They showed us like 20 minutes during like a 40-minute showcase. So, but yeah, I'm very excited. I don't think this is gonna set my world on fire by any means, but I think it's going to be a really solid ride for however long it ends up being. So yeah, I'm hyped. How about you?
I think subdued is a good way to put it, because after that initial reveal, I think you, me, Kevin watched it together. We were all like riding high off that reveal, right? We all thought it looked great. And on the recent trailer at the PlayStation Showcase, I didn't like not enjoy it, but I feel like some of the jokes just didn't work because they were trying to cut them into a trailer, you know? Like, I feel like cutting a video game trailer with jokes and dialogue is really different from cutting a movie trailer, even though it's like, well, it's just cutscenes, but like I think there's still an air of disconnect for you, because if you're with that group for like 3 hours and then they do a little skit together, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's funny when you're actually playing it, and then like out of context, it was just weird. But yeah, I'm still excited for this. I'm really looking forward to playing it. I think it might be one of my favorite games this year, and as long as it delivers the way I think it should. Eidos has made some great games in the past, and I want to hear what you think of this. I'm going into this fully expecting it to be better than Avengers.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there in terms of comparing them like on a story and gameplay level. Yeah, I think I'm quite with you. Because this is kind of, we've talked about this. This is just sort of marketed as the anti-Marvel's Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Very much a single-player experience. There's like no microtransactions or anything like that. The gameplay is like very much focused on Star-Lord, so I feel like it's probably going to be more in depth than, not that the gameplay was hollow by any means in Marvel's Avengers, but not as focused. So I think with all that combined and like the choice-based narrative, hanging out with your Guardians like on the Milano and things like that, I think this is going to be a really, really good one. And yeah, I kind of do expect this to be a little bit better on the narrative and gameplay perspective.
Yeah, I think on average it will probably review better as well. Like, I think when we did our initial Avengers discussion last year, I want to say I gave it an 8.5. In reality, Avengers is a 7, and I think this will be an 8.5. You know, I think that's
Right.
like maybe the scale we're looking at here. But I'm still excited. Like you, I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I think I've settled. I did a Twitter poll. PS4 Pro for the Steelbook, and risking maybe some poor frame rates, but Avengers is usually fine, or Xbox Series S digital version, probably fast loading and hopefully no frame rate problems. So
I voted in this poll.
tell me what you voted.
Series S, man. Easy
Okay.
choice. Easy choice.
I think you're right. That's gonna be the first full price game I've bought on my Series S.
Whoa, very cool.
Yeah.
Have you basically been using your Xbox as Game Pass machine, pretty much?
Game Pass, everything I played on there is Game Pass or Destiny, and also I bought Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. So I have spent some
alright.
money on games, but
Nice.
they were not
Yeah.
$60 a pop.
I hear that. Yeah, I saved up for a Series X, so I'm just waiting for them to actually go on sale. And until Halo comes out, that will be my Game Pass and backwards compatibility machine, which I am stoked about because I have a library of 360 games that have just been collecting dust for the past 7+ years. So yeah, very excited.
Well, see, you're in luck because recently I'm like, oh, I'd love to play X-Men Origins Wolverine now. I'd love to play Spider-Man Web of Shadows. I would love to play... God, there was one other game that I was thinking about specifically. But I can't. They're not on the service anymore. They're not on not the PSN. They're not on XBL. Gotta get the
Damn.
disc.
Yeah, see that was what tipped me because I was thinking about getting a Series S, and the disk drive really did it for me. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna invest the extra $200 and just say it's for extra memory, even though it's for the possibility of me wanting to play Call of Duty 2,
Yeah.
which I'll probably do once and be like, you know what? That was worth it.
Hell yeah. Well, nice little check-in on Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, we will continue to discuss it. At some point in October, we'll probably do a read-through of the first volume of Guardians that the game is based off of, just for some refreshers on the differences between MCU Guardians and comic Guardians going into the game. So
I think the Twitter account posted some like must-reads or suggestions for comics that you might want to dive into before the game. So we could definitely do that, and then also check out any suggestions that they have and do some ancillary reading if we want.
Hell yeah. Well, meanwhile, Jack, we got some good eats this week with the trailer for Marvel Studios' Hawkeye on Disney Plus. What are your thoughts on this?
This was such a surprise for me because I'm still going into this with the expectation that this is just going to be... I know it's based on the Hawkeye comic, which I've read a decent amount of and really liked, but, I feel like this is probably going to be standard Marvel fare, but the fact that this is a Christmas-themed television program really got me. I did not anticipate that, and that got me hyped more than anything that I saw in the trailer. The trailer itself was very cool, and I liked the action set pieces and the story that we're following here, but it was all about that Christmas for me, man, and that has me very excited. How about you? How did you react to this trailer?
So, I don't think we knew going into this it took place around Christmas, but when I heard, did they play Most Wonderful Time of the Year, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I heard that popping off and I saw like Clint Barton in like a button up for like the winter, I was like, oh, okay, because I'm with you. I love Christmas themed media, right? Even like beyond the Home Alones and Elves. I'm talking like Iron Man 3, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Die Hard, like things set around Christmas that don't have to do with Christmas really. I'm huge fan of that. Um, and most recently, Miles Morales did that for Marvel, the Spider-Man game.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that we're getting that as the backdrop, already great because the trailer I think is really solid at capturing some of that Matt Fraction Hawkeye, even Avengers game Hawkeye, that MCU Hawkeye has been missing. And I think a lot of it is honestly because we get to see him bounce off Kate Bishop. And it just makes Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton seem a little more interesting, I think, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. And to your point, I'm very excited to see Haley Steinfeld step into this role. I've loved her in just about everything that she's been in that I've seen her in. So, yeah, to see her presumably just take over the role of Hawkeye going forward, and to see this as like sort of her origin story has me incredibly excited. And this is one of those good examples that Disney Plus has kind of, made a really good case for projects going to that service for the MCU, is just giving characters more time in the spotlight that they just haven't gotten in MCU movies. Like Hawkeye historically has not been a major player in a lot of the MCU movies that he's appeared in, and they've done a decent job of trying to rectify that. But even with Endgame, yeah, he had his whole Ronin storyline, but that was very quick in the grand scheme of things. So this will be good. We'll have, I'm pretty sure it's 6 episodes of just being able to sit and just stew in his, thoughts and feelings and get a little bit more insight into his character. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting also because I'm pretty, like, with the origin of Kate Bishop in the Matt Fraction run, it's like Hawkeye discovers somebody is operating under the name Hawkeye, right? And here, she's sort of doing that, but she's acting as a Ronin, which I think is very interesting. Just because we know Clint was that murderer throughout the blip, and then presumably he walked away from it after everything happened, and just him being reminded of what he did because Kate Bishop is out there acting as Ronin Hawkeye, I think is an interesting subplot that we could maybe use to give his character a bit more, I don't know, depth and resolution for a retirement story. But yeah, I did see a lot of people compare it to Die Hard, honestly, just from the Clint angle of just like this guy, he's too old for this. He's probably just looking to finish this and be done and live with his family now. And on that angle, great. But yeah, the draw here is Haley Steinfeld, Kate Bishop. A wonderful character who is introduced to a lot more people thanks to Marvel's Avengers. And I think Haley Steinfeld will be able to capture that Kate Bishop energy very well. Like you, everything she's been in that I've seen her in, I think she's great. So being able to have that more energized, rambunctious, fun Archer role in the MCU is going to be very refreshing, and I'm looking forward to her being on the new Avengers.
Yep. Yeah. The back and forth here is probably going to be the best part of the show. So that has me looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm. We've seen. It's funny now that I think of it because pretty much every single Marvel show we've gotten, there is a buddy dynamic to most of them, and I'm counting like Wanda and Vision as the buddy dynamic, even though it's kind of reaching. We had Wanda and Vision, we had Sam and Bucky, we had Loki and Mobius, and now Clint and Kate. We're keeping that up. It's a proven formula.
Apparently, yeah.
How do you feel about the rumors that Kingpin is in this?
Yeah, that was something I wanted to bring up. The fact that this movie is coming out, or excuse me, this show is coming out smack dab in the middle, or I guess Spider-Man No Way Home is coming out in the middle of this show's run. A lot of people are thinking, oh, this takes place in New York. There's villains in this show that have ties to Kingpin in the comics. I think it's possible that maybe an end credits situation ties in some Netflix MCU stuff, potentially. I don't think that's out of their own possibility. I would like that. I would like that a lot because Vincent D'Onofrio is one of the best live-action Marvel villains we've seen ever, and it'd be great to see him in the actual MCU.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's fantastic. I saw people said like, oh, he was liking tweets about him returning as Kingpin or something like that. So
it's like how Sean Layden tweets saying he should come back to Sony.
Yeah, like who's to say what's going to happen? The multiverse is here, so anything could happen, honestly. But yeah, I think Kingpin would do so much for the MCU, and introducing him here would be great because it does seem like it's the Hawkeyes, both of them, versus the mob or some organized crime. So if Kingpin is involved, and that's his introduction to the MCU properly, not counting whatever happens with retconning or rebooting Daredevil, whatever, that would be huge just to have a genuine organized crime syndicate as a Marvel MCU antagonist, because I feel like we haven't really had that unless I'm blanking. And then, me being selfish, what would that do for Spider-Man down the line? Kingpin is a great Spider-Man villain, and Kingpin being an antagonist to Tom Holland, Peter Parker Spider-Man, I think could do wonders to elevate him to be that more college-age Spider-Man that we're all hoping the next movie is,
Yeah, totally. I feel like that'd be a really good evolution for his villains.
Mm-hmm.
And I really can't see anyone else playing that part.
Yeah.
So might as well just dip into the well.
Mm-hmm. A couple other things that people spotted in the trailer. Apparently, this could very easily just be Avengers 1. They gave people earpieces for Avengers 2 because that was a CinemaSins complaint of oh, they're talking to people and they don't have a thing in their ear. Ooh. Hawkeye apparently has at least one hearing aid now, which is nice.
Yeah, it goes back to his some of his comics roots. I know in a lot of his comics he's deaf.
Mm-hmm.
And communicates with sign language, I believe. So yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I'm hoping it's actually a hearing aid and it's not just a comms piece for him, because it's man, you were right there. Why didn't you just do that?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the other thing, of course, Lucky, the pizza dog, the wonderful companion that we know well. We've given many pats on the helicarrier in our time playing Avengers, is featured in the show. So
excellent. Good stuff here. Good stuff.
Now, we know that Yelena's in here. Is Lucky going to meet Fanny? Is that her name?
Remind me. Is this a Black Widow
dog? The Black Widow dog.
Oh, right. Yeah. Let's say yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how the tension is taken away from whatever scene they're in. She brought her dog.
Mm-hmm.
He brought his dog, and they're
Mm-hmm.
right, dogs.
Yeah. So.
Something we should bring up in this trailer.
Mm-hmm.
That I'd be remiss if we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Rogers musical that we see going on.
Yes. This is the poster for it is obviously playing off of Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's hilarious because Hamilton is that, modern hip hop version of the Founding Fathers and everything. And then you have Steve Rogers, who is this artifact of the early 20th century, being brought into a modern musical. Like it's funny. I'm into it. The fact that we see a shot of it from the perspective of an actual recorded musical makes me think that they actually shot a production of this. I don't know how long it is, but man, what a nice Disney Plus Christmas present that would be, you know? Just December 25th rolls around, Disney
Yep.
Plus. Here you go. We have a 45-minute full production of Rogers on Disney Plus for you to watch. Happy holidays.
So that would be amazing.
Mhm.
My expectation is we get 30 to 45 seconds of a number, and similar to the Zemo dancing
Yep.
gif that we get extended, we get the extended. Here's the full musical number, right? Merry Christmas. I think that's what we're getting, and that has me excited.
That's the exact same reasoning I had for thinking that they would drop the full musical. It was the
full
Zemo cut.
45 produced.
No, that's what it is, dude. They what is it? Give an inch, take a mile. Zemo cut was the inch. A full Broadway
Right,
musical production is the mile.
Right, yeah. From a 10-second long GIF to 45-minute produced, directed Rogers musical.
Hell yeah.
I'll take that mile with you. I'll take it.
Hell yeah. It'll happen, dude. If it doesn't happen this year, there will be like TikTok created a Ratatouille musical that Disney actually put on Broadway for a weekend. Like this can become a thing.
I feel like this has sparked a lot of people's imaginations. I don't know. You're the TikTok representative out of the two of us. Have you seen any musical numbers since the release of this trailer?
I did see one, and this was like not produced or anything. It was just like somebody recorded over this, right? But I did see one person write, I guess, a parody, a twist on a song from Hamilton, but about Steve Rogers' Avengers stuff. So like, I'm sure that ball is continuing to roll. It's gonna happen. I'm sure.
I'm so excited for the week of that episode because, and I'm fully convinced by the week to week method at this point because of just the social media aspect of what are the memes going to look like, what are people going to be making fun of in terms of that musical. So that's good stuff.
Hell yeah. Any final thoughts on Hawkeye? This is dropping episode 1 on November 24th. Gonna be a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good time. I was thinking that going in with the expectation that this might be my least favorite Disney Plus show so far. But the more I think about it, I think this might fall around Falcon and the Winter Soldier, might even surpass it. Just because, like, when you think Hawkeye, it's like, oh, okay, it's going to be probably standard action fare. But then you add the comics inspiration, you add Kate Bishop, you add the Christmas aspect. It seems like what you were saying, they're going for kind of a Die-Hard element here, and things like that. It just gets me more excited as the more I think about it. So, yeah, who knows? But still, good stuff here. So, looking forward to this one.
Hell yeah. Well, with that, we've reached this week's What If discussion. I do not have the full title brought up, but it's the Tony Stark and Eric Killmonger crossover episode. It's the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour of warmongers in the MCU.
I'm pretty sure this one is called What If... I think it's just What If Killmonger saved Iron Man. Oh, What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark is the name of this one.
Very cool. So, I guess general impressions, Jack, out the gate. What did you think of this one? Spoiler free.
Yeah, I really didn't care for this one, which is kind of surprising to me. I thought the premise of this sounded fairly interesting, because it's kind of like out of left field, in terms of like, okay, well, I don't think anyone considered that what if possibility. Like, what if zombies is so, quintessential, but this one's pretty random, so that had me interested. But the end result and what we saw throughout the whole episode just didn't really grab my attention all that much. And the biggest sin for this episode is just it didn't really capitalize on the whole concept of what if, and it didn't really spin enough of the events of the MCU. Obviously, it has like huge ramifications, and the storyline is way different. But to me, that wasn't really an interesting spin, and I really wasn't hooked by the story or the action that really kind of happened here. So this one's kind of lower on my list. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. The initial pitch, I think, I didn't even know what the concept of the episode was called originally, right? Like, I knew from one of those early trailers, it was like, oh, Killmonger meeting Tony Stark when he, like, would have gotten his chest blown up is an interesting point in time to introduce that specific character to Tony Stark at that point in his life. And like you said, I feel like they didn't really capitalize on that enough. Or at least as much as I was hoping, because I feel like they could have gone really in depth with, and they kind of danced around it a little bit, but like if the whole thing was really just like dialogue heavy and talking about Killmonger's ideologies and him manipulating Tony at that time, like Tony pre meeting Jensen, like that, it would have been really, really interesting. And what we got, I'm with you. I look at this similar to how I look at the Captain Carter episode of like, this is for what it is. It's like, hey, yeah, sure. And then I'm left wanting. Like, I'm thinking what if scenarios based off this prompt better in my head, I think, than what we got.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. I'm going to dip into spoilers here.
Sure.
I feel like they could have gone 2 different ways with this, and it would have been like a much better scenario. For me, I feel like there was a huge missed opportunity with not... Like, the focus of this episode, I think, was kind of all wrong. Like, I think one scenario could have been, what if Tony Stark never became Iron Man? And, like, the whole situation of him, like what you're saying with Jensen in the cave, like, that was his kind of come-to-Jesus moment, and that was the beginning of his character arc. And he didn't get that in this, but they didn't really kind of focus in on, you know, him not becoming the character we all loved at the end of the episode, or at the end of his run in the MCU. So I feel like that could have been a really interesting what if scenario. But if they wanted to just straight up do the Killmonger scenario, I feel like they could have placed it around any event. Like, it's very odd that they decided to place this around Iron Man 1. Like, I didn't really see the rationale in that. Like, they really could have had a Killmonger story anywhere in the MCU. So it just felt, obviously everything feels out of place in What If, but it didn't feel like it meshed very well, in a sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's tricky because What If as a concept is just so like infinitely exciting that I think depending on the direction you choose to take with a concept, it can either be really creative and exciting or just kind of poorly executed. And I think that's what you're saying exactly, right? Like, that's what this is, where I don't know what we got out of this for Tony Stark. I don't know what we got out of this from Killmonger. And those are the 2 leads, right? I feel like you get into maybe some interesting stuff with some of the side characters. Like, it was interesting seeing Obadiah, but like, I think this is one of the weaker ones for sure. But, and it kind of like ended in a weird spot too. Just like, I genuinely don't know what this episode was trying to say about this combination of characters. Like, you go into Eric Killmonger, the villain of Black Panther, who people think is right but wrong in his planning, and then Tony Stark, who is literally like one of the worst people on the planet at that point in time. You go in with expectations of where the story will go, and like things will be said about people or the world, and then you get out of it and it's like, okay, what do we really take away here? You know?
Yeah, like I feel like it would have been a lot more interesting to see Killmonger as Black Panther with his kind of plans, because his plans in Black Panther were noble in a lot of regard, and I think it would have been a lot more interesting if the scenario was, what if Killmonger was Black Panther, and like what if he succeeded essentially. And we got to see him get to that point where he did become Black Panther, but then it just stopped. And yeah, you're kind of right. We're kind of just left thinking, all right, well, we saw the planning stages of him rising to that title. We just really didn't get the payoff, and we kind of saw the most boring part, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think I really don't know what the pair up here gave us that would have been more interesting than picking up basically from the ending here, which is kind of like where we could have picked up with this what if scenario of, like you're saying, what if Killmonger was Black Panther, and then set it at the point in Black Panther the film where he becomes the king, and then the what if scenario goes off from there, because you have an opportunity for the end of that film where he lost, but there's a world where he won. And if that's the world where he won, he'd still be achieving the ends that he's looking to get to in this, you know? And I feel like we're just dancing around the more interesting subtext here, where it's like, oh yeah, he's working with Tony, he's playing multiple sides here. He's remember that Always Sunny meme where it's like, I forget which character it is, but he's like, I play both sides so that way I always come out on top.
Yep.
That's kind of what this episode reminded me of. It's like sure, it's fun to watch, and like even the worst episodes of What If, not even worst, but like the ones I'm getting the least out of, I still enjoy watching, and this was a fun thing to watch because there were fun moments, but yeah, I was definitely left wanting more, I think.
I agree. I will shout out the actor. I don't have their name. The actor who plays Tony Stark in this, for doing a bang-up job of doing a really good MCU Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. impression. Because, like, obviously the voice isn't a one-for-one match, but there are points where it's like, that sounds eerily similar to RDJ, and the mannerisms and everything. Like, that was a really good fill-in, I think, for Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. We got Chadwick Boseman again.
Yeah.
That was a surprise.
I feel like every time Black Panther pops up, like I'm surprised every time. I really thought that his episode earlier on in this show was his last performance, but obviously he's recorded a bunch of stuff for What If, so it just, is taken as is. Like, this project is his last, but I am very surprised every time I hear his voice in new episodes.
Yeah, and just the context of him in this episode as well. Like, I'm not looking. This was, I guess, like a taste of maybe what we can see in Wakanda Forever when they're dealing with, like, I guess, sending off this character. I know that's like not what the intent was here, but just the idea of like sort of a goodbye in a way, but not like a goodbye in hindsight because of everything that happened, and
right.
The way they could maybe position that in the film. Like, that was the main thing I was thinking of with all of his stuff in this episode. But yeah, is there anything else you really enjoyed from this one? Because I'm with you about Tony Stark also. The voice actor, like Spider-Man, was a really good match. And I think What If continuing to do that is probably solid. Like, if we get more animation for season 2 with Tony and Spidey, and it's these actors, like, yeah, sure, they did great, and it seems like it fits in the MCU. So
yeah, I if that, if we get more animated projects and we got actors stepping in for actors who no longer portray the role, I'm totally fine with that. Like, that's kind of sold me so far, which is good. Because as we've seen actors who still play the role and don't really provide a good voice in terms of animation. But yeah, honestly, I don't want to sound negative, but there's really not too much I like about this episode. It feels very Phase 1 Marvel to me in like kind of the worst ways possible, with like plot lines I don't really care about, villains that like I'm like, all right, whatever, like the I almost said adamantium, the vibranium iron suits. I'm like, okay, whatever, they're just literally mindless drones. This episode just did not do a whole lot for me.
Yeah, and I think the reason I'm in the same boat as you, and the reason I think it's less of there were some highlights like there was for Captain Carter. It's like I feel like the potential of this one I led with out the gate. You hear this pitch, you see these characters, you see where it's taking place in this point in time and their arcs, and then it doesn't really explore much of what you expected to. I think that was my biggest letdown with the episode, and it's lower on the rankings for me. I'm sure it is for you too.
Dude, it might be super low for me.
Yeah, it might be super low.
Let's get into that.
So currently the group ranking is first place, What If T'Challa Was Star-Lord? Second place, the Nick Fury episode. Third place, Zombies. Fourth place, Doctor Strange Destroys the Existence. Fifth place is Captain Carter. Where are we putting episode 6?
Let's just put it at the bottom, dude. I say that because I think I would rather watch the Captain Carter episode, even though it is pretty much a carbon copy, cut and paste of the first Avenger. I feel like that was a solid enough start to What If, and it was just a fun episode where I feel like this episode was not fun. Obviously, they don't have to be. Like, the Doctor Strange episode isn't fun, but it's a great episode. And this really kind of failed to capitalize on the what if scenario. In a lot of ways, it made like absolutely no sense to me. This is probably my least favorite, honestly. I don't think I'll watch this again.
Yeah, we can put it last place, because even though I give it points for diverging from what we already have, it still didn't do enough with it. And like I said, my biggest disappointment was it had so much potential with the concept we were leading in with, and even though it was different from Black Panther, it was a little different from Iron Man, like what we got it didn't live up to that what if bar, I guess, and Captain Carter maybe didn't either, but like you're saying, Captain Carter was more fun. So unfortunate, but we have a new last place.
Yeah, dude, I really did not expect anything to go last place.
Me either. I really thought Captain Carter was gonna hang around last place, and we've said this every week. We both liked the Captain Carter episode. It was just a failure to capitalize enough on that what if concept, and even though this one maybe did a little more, it just wasn't what we wanted, I guess, and it did not really offer much either.
No, it really doesn't, which is sad. I was really hoping that Captain Carter would be the last place episode, because that's a solid, bottom episode, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's still really fun and enjoyable. But yeah, like we've been saying, it's just, it's a little too similar to the source material. But yeah, this episode, I really don't see myself ever jumping back into.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, And once again, we're leaving off with a thing that could maybe be explored again in the future. Do you think you would want it to be? Do you think you'd want to pick up for that final scene?
Oh, yeah, I actually think this might be one of the ones I'd be interested in following along. Like what we both said earlier, I think the much more interesting story is following up on Killmonger if he succeeds.
Yeah.
Because I think that is a way more interesting situation than what we got here, and it seems like we would be heading in that direction. So yeah, I would totally be interested in a part 2 to this.
Yeah. So maybe we get that in a season 2. Maybe we get again, we keep thinking maybe one of these episodes is going to be a massive crossover. Maybe we get to see Killmonger show up again this season, but if not, Marvel, you're looking for ideas for season 2. This is one of them. This is one to pick up with, despite it ranking last. So,
Yep.
Well, that basically wraps up everything for Marvel this week on Excelsior. I will say before we wrap up, next episode we will be kicking off our fall Spidey series rewatch extravaganza catch-up, and it's going to be fun. So we're starting, next week's episode is going to be a spoiler-filled rewatch review of Venom. It'll make sense in a second. The following week is when Venom Let There Be Carnage releases. So Jack and I, similar to Shang-Chi, will see it that weekend. We'll record it as an additional episode that week. There will be a bonus probably early the following week of Venom's release. And maybe that weekend we can do like a Spidey comic review or something. I know you wanted to read one more day. Maybe we do that then for the normal episode.
Yeah, we could do something like that.
And then dates need to be locked down still because of Thanksgiving and some gaps, but the order of movie releases are going to be Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, the Raimi trilogy, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, then Homecoming, then Far From Home, then No Way Home. So, get excited.
Excellent stuff, dude. I love having Marvel homework again. It's been some time since we did the original run of Excelsior, going through all the MCU. This is a little bit different. I'm hyped. I'm never thought I'd have to spend money to see Venom again, let alone see its sequel a week later. So we'll see how that goes. See how I feel. I gotta say though, there's only one direction for my thoughts of Venom, and it can only go up. And,
sure.
Not saying it will, but it's either steady or my thoughts about that movie improve. So we'll see.
This is a complete shot in the dark. I don't know who owns this brand, but I bet you Venom is streamable on a Starz subscription.
Does Sony have stuff going on with Starz?
I don't know, but I can see the Venom poster, and in the bottom right corner of that thumbnail on the Roku, it says Starz. I can see that be a thing.
I'll look into it.
Okay.
I'll look into it.
Well, until then, Jack, where can the Agents of Excelsior find you?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at FascinatedJack. What about you, Christian?
You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Chun2D2. If you want to find the show on Twitter, it's at ExcelsiorJC. The schedule for the Spidey Excelsior rewatch will be pinned on the Twitter account for you to keep up with everything, as well as links to the show and stuff like that. If you want the video version of the show, you can check it out on you can check it on youtube.com/joyclicks in the playlist for Excelsior every Saturday as you expected. Audio services, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever service you use, just look up Excelsior, Avengers Podcast, JoyClicks, you'll find it eventually. You will see it potentially with some new art next week. I got a nice little Spider-Man inspired cover art for the podcast. Looking forward to posting that up finally.
Exciting.
And yeah, if you want to support the shows, patreon.com/joyclicks at the $1 and $5 tiers. $5 gives you producer credit on every show we do, like Aaron Easton and Charles Applin. So thank you very much. And that is it for a light week in Marvel. Next week, do you think we get a Ms. Marvel trailer? I feel like we're due for it. It's supposed to come out this year still, apparently.
I have no faith that show comes out this year. Like, I don't know when that thing's coming out. That would be a tight fall for Marvel. And for Disney Plus, really. If Ms. Marvel, Hawkeye, The Eternals, No Way Home, and The Book of Boba Fett, like all in the realm of Marvel, Star Wars, Disney Plus, that's a lot. But it'd be cool. I really don't know when this thing comes out. I know they say it's supposed to be fall 2021, but like when? It would have to be like now. Have to be imminent.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, they've done live action and animated at the same time, so I could see it maybe after What If is over, start up when Star Wars Visions is going, like start up sometime in October, and then once it ends, Hawkeye will be like right after maybe. But that'd be tight.
But why? It's so weird. Like, if it is coming out before Hawkeye, why would we get the Hawkeye trailer first? You know?
I have no idea. No clue. Maybe it's because some Hawkeye stuff is about to leak. Who knows?
Maybe.
But we'll see what happens next week. We'll be back with Venom and Marvel's Avengers highlights. But until then, Excelsior.
Excelsior.